Over the hills, down in the valleys, there where the river runs, that's where the Trollfords lived. And where the river turns about a crook, there is a place where the trees have been cleared away, and for about half a mile there is a meadow, and the land is covered with rich green grass. Here in the middle of a field of wild flowers you will see what seems to be the trunk of a huge tree. The enormous trunk has been worn very wearily with age and weather, and now, unfortunately, it has become slightly stooped. No branches grow on it. Instead, a strange great umbrella formed by a red canvas flecked with white marks is spread over the top. It is clear for anyone to see that this was a giant mushroom. Once it had been like the mushrooms that might be seen beside a country path, the familiar toadstools that grow in the woods, but old magic had made it grow huge. What made the mushroom even stranger was that it had a door, a window, and a chimney. There was a garden outside as well, a little wall with a gate around it, and a lane that led through to the front door. A trover lived in the mushroom. His name was Rudwin Milgan. Rudwin lived in one of the villages outside the wood, far away from the town on the other side of the river. The trovers were a small people when compared to us. In nature they were round and squat. Their hands were small and podgy, their legs were short and stumpy, their feet were splayed out, and they moved slowly. Their heads were triangular in shape and ringed by a circle of spiky fur. Their eyes were large and curious. They wore outfits woven from some strange green material, and sometimes wore caps or hoods. They lived in the mushroom houses, which were known to trovers as stonks, and in their mushroom villages the trover communities lived their secretive lives. They didn't know about the strange old man called Hobbleweed. He was a half-tree, a 6-foot giant with skin made of bark, and he lived alone in the woods. No trover had ever seen him before. But it came on a singular day in April, the weather being notably fine for that time of the year, when a certain Rudwin Milgan happened, by chance it must be said, upon a sleeping Hobbleweed. Having spent the morning filling his coat pockets with mushrooms for an afternoon supper, Hobbleweed had fallen asleep on a grassy knoll, and, with his back to a tree, he had dozed slowly to sleep. Yet he still heard little footsteps approaching. It was probably another curious animal, he thought, having a peep at him out of the trees and wondered what he was. But when he opened his eyes to look, he saw the 3-foot trover looking at him with its strange, curious eyes, out from under the bushwood coverage. Hobbleweed chuckled, to begin with, because the trover was without doubt the funniest and smallest little creature he had ever seen on 2 legs. Slowly, so not to startle the little man, Hobbleweed stood up. "Good to meet you, sir," he said, and then he bowed in an awkward, rusty fashion before falling over again. "What a fine day it is, don't you think?" So there he was, Hobbleweed, looking thin and stick-like and almost resembling a scarecrow. From a distance you could have mistaken him for one. He wore a long dark blue coat, which went from his chin to his feet, and it was buckled down the middle with golden buttons. There were long, heavy boots on his feet as well, and his head was a tatty old hat with a feather sticking out of it. His hair, which was also tatty, stuck out from under the brim of his hat like straw.